Good morning, Daily Huddlers. Today is Wednesday, where we talk everything communications and relationships. And today we have really kind of an interesting question around communication and relaxation. So rather than a joke, I thought I would share a quote this morning from our beloved friend, Brene Brown. And she says this about connection, which is the point of communication. Connection is why we're here. We are hardwired to connect with others. It's what gives purpose and meaning to our lives, and without it, there is suffering. Let's roll that tape, Lizette. Thank you. Thank you. Good morning. I am so excited about our topic today because I think it's going to take us in a little bit of a new direction. But before we dig into the question with my co-host, Kathryn Sabol, I want to ask some questions of you. And I think I'd like to start with Giovanni. I have missed you, and I would like to know, where are you and how are you?
Thank you, Tara. I am here. I am here. And how am I? I am the way I say I am. And today I am curious.
Ooh, I like that. Keeping a curious mind. That's something that I always try to do. So bring it. Bring the curiosity. You know, I have not asked a question of Miss Cece in quite some time. So I would like to hear from you this morning, Cece. I would like for you to tell me, where are you? And tell me who you're going to hug today.
I am right here, right now, and I'm going to hug some unknown person out in the public.
Oh, what a lucky person. Good for you. I want to hear the story about who is the beneficiary of your unexpected hug. So thank you for sharing that. And I think I've got one more question this morning, and it is from Mr. Tom Montgomery. Good morning, Tom.
Hello, Tara. Good morning.
Great to see you. I would like to ask you, what time is it and what are you grateful for?
Well, Tara, the time is now. No other time than right now. And I am grateful for the chance to start the day grounded and reflecting and learning. And that's why I enjoy this so much with you.
Oh, that's why we're here. I love that spirit about you because you already know a lot of things.
I forget a lot of things.
You know a lot. You know almost all the things, the Tom that I know.
I forget a lot of things.
The way that you love to keep learning is one of my personal tenets. But, speaking of tenets, one of our daily huddle tenets is to stress less. And I'm going to tell you what about stress less. It sort of bugs me, that tenet. And the reason why it bugs me is because I need a strategy to stress less. I can't just say, go away, stress. The opposite of stress is to relax, right? And sometimes we use things like a glass of wine or a long walk to relax. Those may or may not be sustainable. But today we're going to talk about how communication can help us relax. So some of you may know that Kathryn and I have been hosting a retreat for women. It's called FemFort, which means strong woman. And our third retreat was this past Saturday. And we undoubtedly both agreed by leaps and bounds, it was the best retreat we've hosted so far. And that's what brought us to the question today. So without giving away, without being a spoiler alert, I want to bring Kathryn into this conversation and ask her to tell us a little bit of the background of FemFort and how it was that we decided that no doubt it was the best one we've hosted so far, and what that has to do with our question. So good morning, Kathryn.
Yes, thanks, Tara. Yes, I do agree that it was our best ever. And, I've been thinking a lot about stress and the stress less tenant. And what I've come to is it's present. We're trying to be our better selves, our best self, right? I think that's why a lot of us are here. And so the times when I'm not, when I look at that, stress is present in every one of them. When I'm in an argument, stress is present. If I'm upset or yelling at my kids, stress is present. Not a great night's sleep, stress is present. And there's also other things present, but that's the common denominator in all of those situations. So I've really been taking a look at that and like, okay, so my number one goal is to relax more, stress less. So there's lots of ways to do that, like you mentioned. And when we were planning for the retreat, we do this every time we get together and we talk about what we're going to do and what's the point, et cetera. And this time you were late and in traffic. So not late, like that's not a criticism. You were behind and late and you were stuck in traffic. Right. And so like now suddenly
Not
it's like,
stressing less.
I'm feeling stressed. I can feel you're feeling stressed because you're in traffic and we're trying to do this on the phone before you get here the day before. So I'm starting to know it's ticking up. Right. And it was kind of going a little sideways. Normally we're like flowy and connected and talking and it's all great. And it was like, and you finally said to me, you're not, what's going on? You're not feeling this. What's happening? And it was through that conversation that I realized I was trying to be somebody that I'm not. I was trying to do something, to figure something out in the retreat. What's the purpose? How are we going to do this? And it became really hard. And through that conversation, you helped me to realize I don't have to do anything except be myself. And I immediately started to relax. And then we talked through what does that mean? And that's true for you too. That's all you need to do is to show up and be yourself. And I completely relaxed. And what was important about that for me and for us is that through our honest, authentic, direct communication, everything settled. We had so much fun when you got here that night and into the next morning, and it was a blast. The entire retreat was just aligned and connected, and we got great feedback. And that pivotal moment of you saying to me, what's going on? You're not feeling it. And what unfolded after is what led us to that point.
Absolutely. Yes. And so I think for me, that's part of the story as it relates to how can communication help us relax? Because a lot of times in communication, we're stressed, we have an agenda, we're thinking about what we should say, how we should say it, especially in business, but even with new friendships, it can be stressful. And so for me, the communication of that retreat relaxed me like it never had before. And I'll explain a little bit of a different side to this, which I don't think you have shared, is that I think as long as you and I have been working together, there's been a part of me that has tried to mirror your energy. And every time I do that, I regret it because it causes me stress because I'm not bringing my full self. Let's say it like it is, Kathryn. You're the woo-woo, I'm the Yahoo. And
I love it.
I brought my Yahoo self to that retreat and let you bring the woo-woo, and I brought the Yahoo. And we had more laughter, we had more safety, we had more authentic connection. Not that we didn't feel.
Just call me.
But I think that you and I were more a part of it than we were just leading it, more than ever before.
Well, I think that is so true. And when we talk about communication, it's such a big topic. But the reason we were able to show up as our full selves, that you gave yourself permission to just be yourself. I've given you that permission over and over, but I can only give you so much. And then you've got to step into it, is because we trust each other, because we have the communication, because we know that I can be direct with you and you can be direct with me, which is all about communication. And we knew that if anything went sideways, that we could say, just like you did in that moment, like, hey, we got to stop. We got to do something here. So when you got on here and you said, stress less bugs you because you need strategies for it, this is great, wonderful, great. This is an amazing experience for us. But how do we take the learning from that and share it out?
Right. Yeah.
And I think there's a couple of things that we're talking about. One, it's building the foundation, and I think you and I have tested each other and said, hey, this is what I want to do. I want to be really direct with you. And then I go, okay, that's cool. That works for me, or I need some space. Is that okay? Don't take it personally. I just need to go be woo-woo for a minute, get my space and come back. So how do you build that grounding foundation for people when they're in relationship and in communication? There's those that you know really well and those that you don't know so well. So how do you do that?
In probably the past, I love this question because I think it brings us to what the takeaway may be today from the daily huddle. And over the past, I'm 57 years old, and over the past easily probably 7 to 10 years, I've said this to myself: life is too short for fake friends. I just don't have time or the energy or want to lean into the stress of those old competitive relationships that oftentimes women can have, where they present that Facebook self all the time, and they keep up the smile, they keep up the toxic positivity, they keep trying to bring them their best selves and never show their true spirit. And what I've learned about that is it's the opposite of relaxing. Causes extreme cortisol because we are working really, really hard to present somebody that we're not, but that's protecting us from what the brain is afraid of. And the brain sometimes is afraid of being found out. Like we're afraid that the person is not going to like what they see. And once we trust in our integrity, I might screw up a conversation that we have. I might screw up an event that we put on, but I know that I'm trusting in my integrity, and that brings me peace. That brings me the woo-woo of Kathryn. So I can communicate in an authentic way when I trust in myself. We've got to trust in ourselves. And that won't invite all friends, but what it's going to do is invite the type of communication that is physiologically good for our body. And I want to take just a few moments to explain what that science is. When we are in high stress mode, most people know we have a whole lot of cortisol. There's ways that we can work to reduce cortisol. And a lot of us reach for things that give us dopamine, and that keeps us in a stimulated place. So it's not really helping. Dopamine meaning like Netflix, caffeine, alcohol, anything that keeps popped up, stimulated. Yeah. But if we do something that elevates our oxytocin, which is that bonding hormone, that feeling we get when we're connected, then that reduces our stress. It is scientifically proven that when we have deep, meaningful, enlightening, connected communication, it reduces our stress hormone because oxytocin pours in, and that is one of the best things we can do for our body and mind. So absolutely, authentic communication can relax us.
I love it. And I think what you're saying about knowing yourself, I think that's so important because you and I've practiced, I guess is the right word, but done that with each other, meaning when I'm stressed, I know what I need. If I'm really clear with myself, it's usually a walk outside. I mean, sure, I reach for the other things at times, but it's usually a walk outside, it's exercise, it's deep breathing, or it's talking through something like we did in that moment. And I know that I'm responsible for my own nervous system and how to keep myself woo-woo, as you say. And so that's my responsibility. No matter what you're asking of me, I'm always looking at myself going, okay, I can't do that right now. I can't hop on the phone right now. I can't, whatever. I need to go. And I think that brings us to a good place because then we're able to be authentic. We have to feel safe to be able to have conversations and to be authentic and to be vulnerable. We have to. And if we've got cortisol and we have cues of danger in our environment, or even in, we're seeing something in the relationship, we're not going to be able to come with our full self. So taking care of ourselves, resourcing ourselves, doing all the other things in our tenets like rest, eating well, sleep, I think that also helps bring us to a good place.
So how can we, I'm just trying to imagine if I'm listening to this conversation and I might still be feeling a little bit like, well, that's great, Kathryn and Tara, that's great for you, but how does that help me? So if I'm trying to think how, for me, it just is about intentionality and practice. Like the next time I pick up the phone to reach out to a trusted friend, take a minute to make sure that I'm bringing my very best authentic self, which might not be always happy, but it's going to be real.
Mhm.
And then when I put that phone down, to really assess my energy and my stress level.
Yes, that's what I was thinking too, because it's one thing to set the intention and do it, but to reflect back, and it doesn't take long. Just go, how do I feel right now? Oh my gosh, I feel so much lighter, or something's bothering me. I'm not sure what it is. There's no right or wrong. It's just information. So, okay, next time, what am I going to do on the next call? It can be on work calls. We can practice this. Where are we? Where is our level? Are we getting more stressed? Why? And what do we need to do to take care of ourselves unapologetically?
I love that. I think there's one more piece that I want to jump into, and then I definitely want to hear from others. And it is the balance of communication. And I'll tell you what I mean by that. I mentioned this to you before, and you said, I think that you're in the minority there, Tara. But I have a tendency to ask questions and questions and questions, leaning in, trying to get to know somebody. And I'm genuinely curious. And that is my way of loving, is listening and asking great questions. But it's also can be my Achilles heel. Because if I don't make sure that I'm sharing myself too, and my thoughts and my struggles, my insecurities, what I'm proud of, it's not a relationship. I'm just a journalist interviewing somebody.
Right.
So I think that's another piece to this is working to make sure, is this conversation balanced? Am I doing all the talking? Am I doing all the listening?
Right.
And how we can really, and I think that's one of the ways to develop a growing, safe relationship, which brings us relaxation. So
Yeah. And I think another great question is, do I feel connected? Like, how connected do I feel to this person right now? And if not, what do I need to do? Or how can I show up differently? Because the other thing I want to say just before we jump into questions is, you said you brought your full self, and so did I. And we say this a lot, the way that we show up, the way I show up, if I am authentic and I'm vulnerable, that invites you to show up in that space. That way, if I show up kind of closed and, you said mirror energy, I think that's part of being human. We start to match someone's energy. If you're bouncing off the walls and I'm like, boom, and that's it the entire time, we're not really connecting. We're not meeting in the middle, So it's a natural part of things. So it's, we have to manage our own energy. And then also, how do I meet that person where they are?
Yeah, that's part of sales strategy, is mirroring somebody's energy.
Mhm.
And as long as it's authentic, it can be positive. But when it causes us stress and it feels inauthentic, like when I, tried to be a coach, I'm not a coach, I'm a speaker. You're the
Right.
coach.
Right. I love it.
Yeah.
Let's dive into questions. Tom has his hand up. What you got for us, Tom?
Hello, Kathryn. Good morning. Hey, so yesterday you and I were in some training. It was focused on, parent to child, and the concept was rapport. And the question today being communication, helping to stress less. And you said a few minutes ago, it starts with a foundation. And so I guess my question then is we think about foundation in the sense of rapport with that other person. There's building rapport, and then there's maintaining rapport. So my question is, could you talk about, connection to someone, in the sense of rapport?
Yeah, sure. This was a parent training for my son, Michael, with, it's called behavioral therapy. And so they were talking about how building rapport with a child is going to be the foundation for how you start to work with the behaviors and, different things like that when he's having problem behaviors. And we both said, wow, does this work adult to adult? It was kind of joking, but it's actually really true. Imagine rapport this is part of the foundation. In other words, Tara and I built so much rapport that she was able to come to me and say directly what's going on. The way I think about rapport is you're depositing money into a bank, you're depositing rapport into a bank, and then you can draw on it at any time. And so rapport in this sense looks like all the great conversations that you have. Like when Tara calls me up and we just have a great conversation and we're really connected, that's rapport building. And so it's a really great point. If you're in a conversation with somebody and you jump, let's say Tara and I jump straight to the particles, the details of that day and how we're going to do it. And things started to get a little tricky. An option would be to slow down, stop, back up and go, I forgot to ask you how you are. That's rapport building. How are you? What's going on? Connect before diving into, the work of it. Does that make sense? And I'd love to hear what Tara has to say, because it's a great question and a great framing.
It's also a damn powerful reminder that that foundation cannot live without being nourished. It can't live forever.
Yeah.
Because we talked this morning, Kathryn, and you said, how are you doing? And maybe a lot of people I would have said, I'm good. But I said, this therapy thing, we got to talk. It's harder than I thought. I was real with you.
Mhm.
And it, certainly it depends on the setting, but I have a friend that has been in my life since college. And lately our lives are just in different directions. But when we connect, you hear about those friends that just feels like yesterday. It doesn't with her.
Mm.
It makes me sad. Like we've stopped fortifying that foundation. So she asks me questions that you would ask someone in a very trusted friendship. But because we haven't really been in that space for such a long time, she'll get more surface answers. And she's given me the same thing.
Mhm.
And there's work to do there. So
Mhm.
I do think that it's so wise to realize that the foundation is something that has to be built, but it can erode if we don't take care of it. You agree?
I totally agree. And you know what this is bringing me to is something that came up at the retreat. We asked some questions about how do you envision your mental fitness? And we use that phrase instead of mental health. And what came from that was that health feels static. It's either something you have or you don't have, and then you can work to get it at some point, but it's more static. Fitness, like if I'm working out and trying to get strong and I lift weights today, that's not the end of it. I can't assume that I'm going to be strong from here until the end, And I'm thinking that this brings in relationship fitness. It's like, do you have a healthy relationship? That's static. Like, is it healthy or not? But what is your relationship fitness? Because it's like, what do you do to work on it? How strong is it right now? Have you allowed it, like this friend you're describing, to get a little bit weaker and atrophy some? And what do you need to strengthen that? So I think that's exactly what we're talking about, that foundation of relationship fitness.
This might be taken a slightly off course, but what you just said is very comforting because it causes us not to say that every relationship we have, every thought, the way our mental health is either good or bad. It's neither. It's neither here nor there. My relationship with you is beautiful and authentic, and it can still grow and get better. Same thing with my relationship with my husband, with my children, with people at work. And that is empowering. There's no like, oh, it's in bad shape. It just, I can do some things to bring that friendship foundation back with this friend of mine, for example.
I love that, because if you look at it also in the whole, there are areas of a relationship. There's area like your health, there's areas that you're strong in and there are areas you're probably not as strong in, and relationships are the same, like when we get together, it's this, that, or the other, but we don't really have this, we don't, I'm not saying you and I, but just in general. And so to look at it as a holistically and say, there's some things that we could work on, and it is fluid and it's always moving. So I love that. I hope that answered your question, Tom, about how you see rapport.
It does. Thank you. Yeah. Then if you've got
Poverty
good
is a state
rapport,
or condition in which one lacks.
Oh my gosh.
So then if we're focused on rapport, then we have more effective communication with our friend. And then through the more effective communication, we can help catalyze some de-stressing when you see that friend out of sorts. I think that's my takeaway, what you're saying.
I hope so. Because we always want to make sure that people are like, oh, that gave me something to think about, something to act on when I leave here. And so I'm hoping, one is a hope and one is a question to our listeners, is I'm hoping that people will realize that one of the ways that we can reduce our stress, maybe rather than reaching for some things that are less than healthy, is to connect with a trusted friend. When we do that, though, we've got to be present and in that moment, right? As we say on the Daily Huddle, right here and nowhere else except for right here. And there's no doubt in my mind that would reduce stress. And I'd love for you all to go out and do that this week and tell us what you experienced. But I also wonder if this conversation can help more stressful conversations and relationships be less stressful. And that's what I'd like to hear about.
Oh, that's a good point, right? We've been talking about that too, about, difficult situations. For instance, I think about work situations, right? If I get onto a call and I'm like, ugh, this is just not what I want to be on, or, there's some that are super inspiring, others that I'm like, this is going to be harder.
Mhm.
And to your point, it's like, how do we show up and bring what it is that we want to experience in that? And the same is true for any relationship one-on-one. If I want to feel more connected, I need to show up more connected and more open, as opposed to expecting that I'm going to get that connection through the interaction. It might happen, but what can I bring that invites others to join me there to get what I'm looking for, which is deep connection, laughter, fun, enjoyment. The getting stuff done is the easy part.
Yeah, absolutely. I know. It's just, I think it's intentionality. So we only have a few minutes left, but I'm going to bug Gio, even though he's trying to get up, because if there's anybody that I've met in my life, Gio, that seems like they're never stressed in conversation, it's you. And I want to know if there's stress inside there when you're in conversation, or are you intentional, or is this natural? Tell me about your relationship to stress and communication.
Certainly for a while now, I have developed the practice to make an effort to connect with people intimately, and that requires for me to be present to what they're saying. So because in the past I would sort of focus more on what I was saying. If what I say is interesting, or could it be engaging, or it makes me look good, some version of selling myself, but that didn't create intimacy. That just created something else. That is not what left me fulfilled. So then later on, I started noticing that what leaves me fulfilled, and not that it takes away stress of my life, but it certainly takes it away at that moment, is to create intimacy with people. And to create intimacy with people is to listen to what they care about constantly and recreate what they care about, like say it, what they're saying, make sure that they feel heard. Every now and then, people don't do the same. So they just stay within themselves and they only focus on themselves. And so when they do that, that's kind of boring, because then it only became about them. So I didn't create intimacy. But for the most part, people they really give back. They're really generous when the conversation it's about them. Then they want to know about you, and then it creates this intimacy in the conversation that takes away the stress, if you will, of my life.
Thank you. That's a good lesson, because there's no way for a monologue to create intimacy, really. I mean, to a point, but it's got to be a partnership and communication.
Yep. And you're talking about curiosity and deep listening, some of our favorite topics.
Right.
Well, here we are again.
Yeah,
thanks for sharing.
Thanks for sharing.
Here we are at the end of our show, and we're going to close out with these tenets that we've been talking about today. And I always love to start with love. Love, bring that into the forefront of your mind and share it wherever you go. And laugh out loud. Find reasons to laugh, invite laughter, and that will help you to stress less and relax more as you're starting to practice in these conversations and the strategies we've talked about. Eat mostly plant-based. The earth and your body will thank you. And you give of your love, of your heart, of your time, and of your listening ear to build connection. Sleep, get your 7 hours. That will definitely help you relax more and move that body. We'll see you all next time on the Daily Huddle. Thank you all. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Daily Huddlers. See you next
All right,
time.
thank you.
One love, guys. One love.
Thank you.